Good morning, students. So today we are going to revise the chapter planning. So under planning you have 1 marks 1 question, 2 marks 1 question and 4 marks 1 question and a practical oriented question from this chapter. 1 marks 1 question, 2 marks 1 question and 4 marks 1 question plus a practical oriented question from this chapter. So totally you will have marks, like totally allotted marks of this chapter is 12. So we will start up with the section A. So we have already discussed what is planning, its importance, the planning process, the features of planning, the limitations of planning, different types of plans, all these things. So we'll go through the question answers which are important from your examination point of view. So section A, so under section A, the first question is like what is planning? What is planning? So planning is nothing but deciding in advance what to do, how to do and when to do. It bridges a gap between where we are and where we want to be. Planning is deciding in advance what to do, how to do and when to do. It bridges a gap between where we are and where we want to be. So this is the exact answer for what is planning. So adana devitu arda baribedi. So planning is deciding in advance what to do, how to do and when to do. It bridges a gap between where we are and where we want to be. Okay, so this is the full answer for planning. So in what is planning anta kelidre ishtana bariyabekagutte, no skipping the concepts. Like you will have to write the exact answer, only then you will get the mark. So planning is deciding in advance what to do, how to do and when to do. It bridges a gap between where we are and where we want to be. So suppose when what is planning is asked, what you can do is like you can either write the definition or write the meaning. Yes, okay. So textbook ಅಲ್ಲಿ it's like planning is deciding in advance what to do and how to do ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅಷ್ಟನ್ನು ಬರೆದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಏನಾಗ್ಬೋದು, ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಸಿಗ್ಬೋದು. ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಬೆಟರ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ರೈಟ್ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಡಿಸೈಡಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಅಡ್ವಾನ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಟು ಡೂ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವಾಟ್ ಟು ಡೂ, ವೆನ್ ಟು ಡೂ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹೌ ಟು ಡೂ. ಇಟ್ ಬ್ರಿಡ್ಜಸ್ ಅ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ವೇರ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವೇರ್ ವಿ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಬಿ. So the second question is like which function of management involves decision making? Which function of management involves decision making? So planning is the only function, or planning is the function of which involves decision making. So question is like which function of management involves decision making? So planning is nothing but deciding in advance. So deciding in advance annuvaga it is nothing but making decision regarding what to do, when to do and how to do one. Okay, so planning function of management involves decision making. So this has to be the answer for the question. So the third question is like state the first step in planning process. State the first step in planning process. So when coming to your planning process, you have setting objectives, developing premises, identification or identifying alternative course of action, evaluating alternative course, selecting the alternative, implementing the plan and follow up of action. So all these are the different planning processes: setting objective, developing premises, identifying alternative course of action, evaluating the alternative course of action, selecting an alternative, implementation of plan, and after that the final one is like follow up of action. So when the question is like state the first step in planning process, then it is the setting objective. So the first step or the first and foremost step in under planning process is setting objective, or setting objective is the first step under planning process ಅಂತನೂ ಬರೀಬಹುದು. So the fourth question is like what is single use plan? What is single use plan? So single use plan is developed for a one time event or project. So question alle gottagutte single use andre single use one time. Okay, so single use plan is developed for one time event or project. So ಒಂದು ಸಾರಿಗೆ ಏನು ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ದೇ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ರಿಪಿಟೇಟಿವ್ ಇನ್ ನೇಚರ್. ಸೊ ಅದು ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಪುನಃ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಇಸ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ಒನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಈವೆಂಟ್ ಆರ್ project. So the next question, this is the fifth question, is like, what is standing plan? Standing plan. So standing plan is used for activities that occur regularly over a period of time. So single use plan is the one which is done for one single time, or it is developed for one time event or project. So ಒಂದು event ಅಥವಾ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ plans are the one which are repetitive in nature, like that particular plan it occurs regularly over a period of time. So ಏನು ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅದು ಪುನಃ ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ, ಯುಟಿಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ, ರೆಗ್ಯುಲರ್ ಆಗಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ it occurs regularly over a period of time. So the sixth question is like, give an example for single use plan. Give an example for single use plan. So budget is an example for single use plan. Budget is an example for single use plan. So budget ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ single use plan ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Why? Because it is non repetitive in nature. ಅದು ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಪುನಃ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. So budget is an example for single use plan. So the eighth question is like, give an example for a plan which is neither single nor standing plan. Yes, akade single walla standing walla. Yes, sometimes they are one time event and sometimes they occur regularly. Anta plan yaudu. So strategy is a plan, or it is an example for a plan which is neither single nor standing plan. So strategy is the one which may be a single plan or a regular plan which keeps occurring over a period of time, which occurs regularly over a period of time. Now, strategy is an example for a plan which is neither single nor standing. Yes, strategy is an example for the plan which is neither single nor standing. So ninth question is like, state the meaning of a rule. State the meaning of a rule. So rule is the one of the kind of plan that arises under different types of plans. So rules are specific statement that inform what is to be done. They are specific statement. So rule, it specifies what is to be done. ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ವಿ ಫಾಲೋ ದೋಸ್ ರೂಲ್ಸ್. ಏನು ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಫಾಲೋ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ರೂಲ್ ಈಸ್ the rule is, or rules are a specific statement that inform what is to be done. A rule is a specific statement that inform what is to be done. So the next question, the 10th one mark question is like, what is budget? What is budget? So a budget is a statement of expected results expressed in numerical term. Budget is a statement of expected result expressed in numerical terms. What is a budget? Budget is a statement of expected results expressed in numerical terms. So the next one is like multiple choice question. So the question is like, which of the following statement is not correct with regard to planning? Which of the following statement is not correct with regard to planning? So the first one is like, it is a mental exercise. Planning is a mental exercise. Second one is like, it provides direction for future actions. It provides directions for future action. The third one is, it is the end function in the process of management. It is the end function in the process of management ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. So obviously it is not an end function. Yes, it is not an end function. Yes, the fourth option is like, it involves setting objectives and developing course of action. So obviously planning, it is a mental exercise. It provides direction for future actions or for future course of action, and obviously it involves setting objectives and developing courses of action. So the one which is not correct is, it is end function in the process of management. It is end function in the process of management. So this should be the answer for which of the following statement is not correct with regard to planning. So 12th one is also a multiple choice question. So question is like, which of the following is not a feature of planning? Which of the following is not a feature of planning? So when coming to your features of planning, so you have to see which of them are not what features of planning. So it focuses on achieving objective. So planning focuses on achieving objective is a feature. Planning focuses on achieving objective is a feature. Second one is like it involves identification and division of work. It involves identification and division of work. So that is also a feature. Planning, it focuses on achieving objective, adondu feature. It involves identification and division of work, adondu feature. It is a primary function of management. That is adu ಒಂದು example like option. And the fourth option is like it is a purposive function. So under planning, it's like it focuses on achieving objective, it is a function, it is a primary function of management, it is a function, and it is a purposive function, is a feature of planning. So the wrong answer, that is feature, the one which is not a feature, is like it involves identification and division of work. So identification and division of work takes place under organizing. So identification and division of work enide adu organizing alagutte. So that should be the answer. So the question was like which of the following is not a feature of planning? So yaudu planning the feature alla anodu. So first one andre focuses on achieving objective features. It is a primary function of management, adu kuda features. It is a purposive function, adu kuda features. So yaudu features alla, it involves identification and division of work. It involves identification and division of work. That is not a feature of planning, adu planning du feature alla. So 13th one is like which of the following is an example for single use plan? Which of the following is an example for single use plan? So already now only single use plan the example only kelidru. So policy, procedure, budget and method. Policy, procedure, budget and method. Okay, so alli single use plan ge eradu sari kelidare. Give an example for single use plan anta kelidare. So 12th question, which of the following is an example for single use plan? So again the question has repeated. So budget is an example for single use plan. Budget is an example for single use plan. So next we'll go to section B. Under section B, the first question is like state any two features of planning. See, when the question is asked like state any two features of planning. So state anta kelidre ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, there is no necessity of explaining the points, side points and explain ಮಾಡೋ necessity ಇಲ್ಲ. What to do is like you just explain, you just write the side points of planning, that is features of planning. So the two features of planning are like planning focuses on achieving objectives, planning is a primary function, planning is pervasive, planning is continuous, planning is futuristic, planning involves decision making, planning is a mental exercise. So all these are the features of planning. So what you can do is like you can write any two among these what features. So ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೆ ಎರಡು features ಅನ್ನು ಬರೀಬಹುದು. So ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ ಹಾಗೆ planning focuses on achieving objectives, planning is a primary function of management, planning is a pervasive, planning is continuous, planning is futuristic, planning involves decision making, planning is a mental exercise. So ಇಷ್ಟು ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಇಷ್ಟರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೆ ಎರಡನ್ನು ಬರೀಬಹುದು. The second question under the planning premises, under section B is like give the meaning of planning premises. Give the meaning of planning premises. So planning is concerned with the future which is uncertain, and every planner is using conjecture about what might happen in future. So therefore the manager is required to make a certain assumption about the future. So these assumptions are called planning premises. So ಇದನ್ನು ನಾನು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಏನು ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರಿಮಿಸಸ್ ಇಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಅಸ್ಯೂಮಿಂಗ್ the things that may happen in the future. So things that may happen in the future, so assumption of those things about the future is called as planning premises. So that is why it is said that planning is concerned with future which is uncertain, and every planner is using conjecture. Okay, so about what might happen in future. So ಏನಾಗಬಹುದು. So therefore a manager is required to make certain assumption about the future. He has to make certain assumptions about the future. The third one is like, what do you mean by objectives? What do you mean by objectives? So objectives can be said to be the desired function for a future position that the management would like to reach. So objective is nothing but the position or the target which an organization would like to achieve. So objective can be said to be the desired future position that the management would like to reach. The fourth question is like, what is a strategy? What is a strategy? So strategy, it refers to future decisions defining the organization's direction and scope in the long run. It refers to future decisions defining the organization's direction and scope in the long run. So these questions may be asked for your final examination. So final examination ge inta questions anna keluva chances ide. So adu kashta ide, adike kellikkilla anteli ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಇರಬೇಡಿ. So these questions may be asked for your final exam. So what is strategy? So it refers to the future decisions defining the organization's direction and scope in the long run. Fifth one is, what is a policy? What is a policy? So policies are general statement. Policies are general statements that guide thinking or channelize energies towards a particular direction. Policies are general statements. Policies are general statements that guide thinking or channelize energies towards a particular direction. So the sixth question is like, what is procedure? So procedures are routine steps on how to carry out activities. Procedures are routine steps on how to carry out activities. So they detail the exact manner in which any work is to be performed. So every work has its own procedure to do it. Okay, so ಎಲ್ಲ ಯಾವುದೇ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ಅನ್ನೋದಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ಲು ಕೂಡ, ಸೊ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ರೂಟೀನ್ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ಸ್ ಆನ್ ಹೌ ಟು ಕ್ಯಾರಿ ಔಟ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ. ಸೊ ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಸೊ ಯಾವ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ದೇ ಡಿಟೈಲ್ ದಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾನರ್ ಇನ್ ವಿಚ್ ಎನಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಇಸ್ ಟು ಬಿ performed. They detail the exact manner in which any work is to be performed. Seventh one is, give the meaning of program. Give the meaning of program. So programs are detailed statements. Programs are detailed statements about a project which outlines the objectives, policies, procedures, rules, tasks, human and physical resources required and the budget to implement any course of action. Programs are detailed statements about a project which outlines the objectives. Programs are detailed statements about a project which outlines the objectives, policies, procedures, rules, tasks, human and physical resources required and a budget to implement any course of action. So all these are the 2 marks question. So istu 2 marks question ide. So istana neatagi ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಕಲ್ತ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. Okay. So next we'll go to section C. Section C, that is 4 marks question. So under 4 marks question, the first one is like, explain the importance of planning with any 4 points. Explain the importance of planning with any 4 points. So under importance of planning, you have planning provides direction, planning reduces the risk of uncertainty, planning reduces overlapping and wasteful activities, planning promotes innovative ideas, planning facilitates decision making, planning establishes standards for controlling. So totally you have 6 points. What to do is like, you write the explanation with side points for any 4. So it may be planning reduces the risk of uncertainty, or it reduces overlapping and wasteful activity irbodu, or planning promotes innovative ideas, as well as planning facilitates decision making irbodu, ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದಾದರೂ. Yes, so planning establishes standards in controlling irbodu, ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದು. ಸೊ ಯಾವುದು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಈಸಿ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ, ಸೊ 4 ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ನೀಟಾಗಿ ಬರೀಬಹುದು. So the second question is like explain any 4 features of planning. So when coming to your features of planning, so you have planning focuses on achieving objectives. Planning is a primary function of management. Planning is pervasive. Planning is continuous. Planning is futuristic. Planning involves decision making. Planning is a mental exercise. So totally you have 7 points. So what you do is like you explain any 4 or 5 points which seems to be easy for you. So what you do is like you can explain planning focuses on achieving objectives. So every organization has objectives. So planning, it helps to focuses on achieving the objectives. So the planning does not have any meaning unless it contributes to the achievement of predetermined organizational goals. When coming to your planning is a primary function of management. So planning, it is first and foremost a function of management. So without planning, the other activities of the organization does not take place in a proper manner, or it can't exist at all. So planning provides the basis for all the other functions in the organization. So planning, the third one is planning is pervasive. So planning, it is required at all levels of management, whether it may be top level or middle level or lower level. So all levels of management and in all departments of the organization, planning is very important. Yes, so it is all pervasive. So it is not an exclusive function of top management or for any particular department. So ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟಿಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟಿಗೆ ಅದು the exclusive ಅಲ್ಲ. So it can be utilized or used in different levels as well as different departments of the organization. So when coming to planning is a continuous process. It's like planning is very continuous. So it's like plans are prepared for specific period of time. So maybe for a month or a quarter or a year. So at the end of that period, so there is a need for a new plan to be drawn on the basis of a new requirement and future condition that arise in the business organization. So planning is a continuous process. So continuity of planning is related with the planning cycle. So it is like it goes, planning is a continuous process. So till the business organization exists, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ business organization ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, planning activities ಆಯ್ತಾನೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. So the third question under section C is like explain any 4 limitations of planning. So when coming to 4 limitations of planning, you have planning leads to rigidity. Planning may not work in dynamic environment. Planning reduces creativity. Planning involves huge cost. Planning is time consuming process. Planning does not guarantee success. So totally you have 6 points. What to do is you write any 4 points with explanation. So it may be planning leads to rigidity. So it's like the plans in the organization cannot be changed all at once. Yes, so in an organization, a well-defined plan is drawn with specific goals to be achieved within a specific time limit. So these plans then decide the future course of action, and managers may not be in a position to change it. So it is not that easy for an organization or a management to change the plan all at once. So it is like it is totally rigid. So when coming to planning may not work in dynamic environment, it's like a business environment is like a totally dynamic. So nothing is constant under the business environment. So the environment, it consists of number of dimensions like economic, political, physical, legal, social, like this. Okay, so organization has to constantly adapt itself to the changes that takes place. So it becomes difficult to accurately assess the future trends and the environment if economic policies are modified or political conditions in the country are not stable or there is a natural calamity. So there are chances that the environment, that is the business environment, it keeps changing or fluctuating every now and then. So planning, it totally has to adopt those situations according to the changes that takes place in the business environment. So that is not possible. So planning, it not work or it may not work in a dynamic environment. Why? Because you can't prepare the plans whenever the economic, that is the business environment keeps changing. The third point is like planning reduces creativity. So planning is an activity which is done by the top management. Planning is done by the top management. So what the other members of the organization do is like they just implement these plans which are put by the top management. So middle management and the other decision makers are neither allowed to deviate from plans nor they are permitted to act on their own. They don't have any rights to act on their own. Okay, so in this particular situation, so most of the time the employees do not even attempt to formulate the plan. So they only carry out orders. So planning is a way reduces the creativity that is available with the other members in the organization. So ಬಾಕಿ ಇರೋ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಯಾರಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟಿವಿಟಿಯನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. So when coming to the fourth point, like planning involves huge costs. It's like planning, it cannot be done so easily. So when the plans are drawn up, huge costs are involved in their formulation. Like I told you, facts and figures has to be collected, so it involves lots of time. So detailed plan, it requires scientific calculation to ascertain the facts and figures. The cost incurred sometimes may also justify the benefits derived from the plan. So it is not that easy to have a plan. So it totally involves a huge cost. So ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಟೈಮ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಮನಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಎಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, huge amount of time or money or effort gets spent under the planning process. So the fourth question is like explain any two types of plans. So plans ಅಲ್ಲಿ objectives ಇದೆ, strategies ಇದೆ, rules ಇದೆ, procedures ಇದೆ, methods ಇದೆ, budget ಇದೆ. So ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, you can explain any two types of plans. So it may be objective and strategy or policy or procedures or methods or rule, program, budget. ಯಾವಾಗರೆ ಎರಡನೇ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, what you can do is like you can explain those any of the two types of plans under the plans. ಎಸ್ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಟೂ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಇನ್ ಟೂ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ಸ್ ಇರುವಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮತ್ತು ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಟಜೀಸ್, ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ಸ್, ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್, ರೂಲ್, ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್, ಬಡ್ಜೆಟ್. ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಎರಡನ್ನ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. So next we'll go to section D. So under section D, the first question is like explain the importance and limitations of planning. So you will have to explain both the importance as well as the limitations of planning. Yes. So when coming to your that is your importance and limitations, what you do is like for 8 marks you will write any 4 limitations and 4 importance. So importance only planning provides direction ide, planning reduces the risk of uncertainty, planning reduces overlapping and wasteful activities, planning it promotes innovative ideas, planning facilitates decision making, planning establishes standards for controlling. So 6 points ಇದೆ. So 6 points ಅಲ್ಲಿ what you can do is like you can explain any 4 of them. ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ನಾಲ್ಕನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, you can explain. So when coming to your limitations of planning, you have planning leads to rigidity, planning may not work in dynamic environment, planning reduces creativity, planning involves huge cost, planning is time consuming process, planning does not guarantee success. So ಇಷ್ಟು ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಸಿಕ್ಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಈ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಗೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ಕ್ವೆಶನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಎನಿ 4 points among those 6. So you will have to explain both the limitation of planning as well as the importance of planning if this particular question is asked. So the second question is like what is planning. So when they ask like what is planning, so what is planning, you write the definition. So planning is deciding in advance what to do and how to do. It bridges a gap between where we are and where we want to be. And when they explain the various features of planning, so what you have to do is like what is planning and explain the features of planning ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಾಗ ಬರೀ ಫೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಬರೆಯೋದಲ್ಲ, what is planning ಅಂತನ ಬರೆಯಬೇಕು. So what you do is like you explain the features. So features like planning focuses on achieving objectives, planning is a primary function of management, planning is pervasive, planning is continuous, planning is futuristic. So at least 5 to 6 ಅನ್ನ ಬರೀಲೇಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. So for 8 marks there are chances that they may ask the types of plans. So the third question is like explain any 4 types of plans. So 4 types of plans ಅನ್ನುವಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಇದೆ, ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಟಜಿ ಇದೆ, ಬಡ್ಜೆಟ್ ಇದೆ, ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಡೂ ಇಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಎನಿ 4 ಅಮಾಂಗ್ ದೋಸ್ 7 ಇದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ 7 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, 4 ಅನ್ನು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅದು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್, ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಟಜಿ, ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ಸ್, ರೂಲ್, ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್, ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್, ಬಡ್ಜೆಟ್. ಎಸ್. ಸೊ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಇರುವಾಗ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರೆ 4 ಅನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ನೀಟಾಗಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. So when it comes to your practical oriented question, When coming to practical oriented question, the question is like, as a manager, what logical step you follow in planning process before executing a project? As a manager, what logical steps you follow in planning process before executing a project? So first one is setting objective. So idike ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ನೀವು ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬರ್ತೀರಿ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಸೆಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್, ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಡೆವಲಪಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರೊಮಿಸಸ್, ಥರ್ಡ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ and identification of alternative course of action, fourth one is evaluating alternative course of action, fifth one is selecting an alternative, sixth one is implementation of plan, and seventh one is follow up. So this is a perfect answer for this particular practical oriented question. So as a manager, what logical step you follow in planning process before executing a project? So planning process anna ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಸೆಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್, ಡೆವಲಪಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರಿಮಿಸಸ್, ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಕ್ಷನ್, ಇವಾಲ್ಯುವೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಕ್ಷನ್, selecting an alternative, implementation, and follow up of action. So all these are the planning or things with points which come under the planning process. So these are the important questions that come under planning chapter.